Firewalls. The oldest and most fundamental layer of network defense, firewalls have been around since the late 1980s, when the internet was still finding its footing. A firewall sits between a trusted internal network and the outside world, monitoring every packet of data that tries to pass through. It follows a set of rules: allow this, block that, and makes decisions based on things like IP addresses, ports, and protocols. Early firewalls were simple packet filters, but modern ones can inspect the full context of a connection, track the state of ongoing sessions, and even understand application layer behavior. Without a firewall, any device connected to the internet is essentially standing in the open with no door.
Intrusion detection systems, often called IDS, these tools exist not to stop threats directly, but to notice them. An intrusion detection system watches network traffic or system activity and looks for patterns that suggest something is wrong. A port scan, an unusual login time, traffic that matches a known attack signature. When it finds something suspicious, it sends an alert. The value here is visibility. Many attacks are slow and quiet, and without something actively watching, they go unnoticed for weeks or months. There are two main types: network-based systems that monitor traffic flowing through the infrastructure, and host-based systems that sit on individual machines and watch what happens locally.
Intrusion prevention systems. Where an IDS watches and reports, an IPS goes a step further and acts. It sits in line with the network traffic, meaning all data passes through it, and when it identifies a threat, it can drop the connection, block the source, or reset the session in real time. The trade-off is that getting the configuration wrong can interrupt legitimate traffic, so these systems require careful tuning. In practice, many modern security platforms combine detection and prevention into a single system, though the distinction still matters when designing a layered defense strategy.
Antivirus software. One of the most widely recognized forms of cybersecurity, antivirus software has been protecting personal computers since the late 1980s, when viruses began spreading through floppy disks. At its core, antivirus works by comparing files and processes against a database of known malicious signatures. If something matches, it gets flagged or removed. Over time, the technology expanded beyond simple signature matching to include behavioral analysis, heuristic detection, and real-time scanning. Today's antivirus tools are often part of larger endpoint security suites, but the original purpose remains the same: catch and remove malicious code before it can cause harm. Endpoint detection and response, usually shortened to EDR, this is what modern antivirus evolved into when the threat landscape became too complex for signature-based detection alone. EDR tools run on individual devices, laptops, servers, mobile phones, and continuously collect data about what's happening on that machine. They record process activity, file changes, network connections, and user behavior, then analyze it for signs of compromise. When something looks wrong, they can isolate the device, kill a process, or roll back changes. EDR became essential in an era where attackers don't always bring malware with them. Sometimes they use tools that are already on the system, which traditional antivirus would never flag.
Security Information and Event Management, known by its acronym SIEM. This is a centralized platform that collects log data from across an entire organization's infrastructure, firewalls, servers, applications, identity systems, and brings it all into one place for analysis. The idea is that a single suspicious event might look harmless on its own, but when you correlate it with other events happening at the same time, a pattern emerges. A failed login, followed by a successful one from a different country, combined with an unusual file transfer, tells a very different story than any one of those events alone. SIEMs are the nerve center for security operations teams, and they form the foundation of most enterprise-level monitoring strategies.
Zero Trust Architecture. This is less a single product and more a philosophy that has reshaped how modern organizations think about security. Traditional security assumed that everything inside a corporate network was trustworthy, and everything outside was not. Zero Trust rejects that assumption entirely. It operates on the principle that no user, device, or application should be trusted by default, not even ones already inside the network. Every request for access must be verified, every session authenticated, and permissions granted based on context. The shift toward remote work and cloud infrastructure made this model not just preferable, but necessary, because there is no longer a clear perimeter to defend.
Identity and Access Management, often called IAM. This is the system that controls who can access what within an organization. It manages user identities, assigns roles, enforces permissions, and ensures that people can only reach the resources they actually need for their work. A well-designed IAM system means that a marketing employee cannot access financial databases, and a compromised account cannot move freely through the whole environment. Features like multi-factor authentication, single sign-on, and privileged access management all fall under this umbrella. Many breaches trace back not to sophisticated technical exploits, but to overly broad access permissions that should never have existed in the first place.
Data loss prevention. DLP systems are designed to prevent sensitive information from leaving an organization in ways it shouldn't. They monitor data in motion: emails, file uploads, transfers to external drives, and in storage, looking for things like credit card numbers, medical records, intellectual property, or anything flagged as confidential. When a potential violation is detected, the system can block the transfer, encrypt the file, or alert a security team. The challenge with DLP is tuning it correctly. Too strict, and it disrupts normal work. Too lenient, and sensitive data slips through. Getting that balance right is an ongoing process rather than a one-time configuration.
Network access control. NAC systems manage which devices are allowed to connect to a network in the first place. Before a laptop or phone can join, the system checks whether it meets certain requirements. Is the operating system up to date? Is the antivirus running? Does the device belong to the organization? If the device fails the check, it might be quarantined, redirected to a remediation network, or denied access entirely. This matters especially in environments where personal devices or contractor equipment might attempt to connect. The goal is to make sure that the network itself is not weakened by the devices joining it.
Web application firewalls. Where traditional firewalls protect network-level traffic, a web application firewall, commonly called a WAF, focuses specifically on the traffic flowing to and from web applications. It understands HTTP and HTTPS at a deep level and filters requests looking for common attack patterns like SQL injection, cross-site scripting, and directory traversal. Many high-profile breaches have targeted web applications rather than infrastructure because they're exposed to the public internet and often contain valuable data. A WAF acts as a protective layer in front of those applications, filtering out malicious requests before they ever reach the application code.
Email security systems. Email remains one of the most exploited entry points into any organization, which is why dedicated email security systems exist as a distinct category. These tools scan incoming messages for phishing links, malicious attachments, impersonation attempts, and spam. They can quarantine suspicious emails before they reach an inbox, warn users about unusual sender domains, and block entire campaigns from known malicious sources. Outbound scanning is also part of this, preventing employees from accidentally or intentionally sending sensitive data through email. Given that the majority of ransomware infections begin with a single malicious email, the importance of this layer is hard to overstate.
Cloud security posture management. As organizations moved infrastructure into cloud environments like AWS, Azure, and Google Cloud, a new category of risk emerged: misconfiguration. A storage bucket set to public by accident, an overly permissive access policy left in place after testing, an unencrypted database sitting exposed. Cloud security posture management tools, often called CSPM, continuously scan cloud environments for these kinds of mistakes. They compare configurations against security best practices and compliance frameworks, flag anything that looks risky, and in some cases, automatically remediate the issue. The speed at which cloud infrastructure changes makes continuous monitoring essential. A configuration that was secure yesterday may not be today. Vulnerability management systems. These platforms exist to find weaknesses before attackers do. They scan systems, applications, and networks on a regular basis, looking for known vulnerabilities, unpatched software, weak configurations, outdated protocols. When vulnerabilities are found, they're prioritized based on how severe they are and how likely they are to be exploited. The output is essentially a ranked list of things that need to be fixed. Vulnerability management is not a one-time exercise. New vulnerabilities are discovered constantly, and software is updated continuously, so the scanning process has to be ongoing to remain meaningful. Deception technology. This is one of the more unconventional approaches in cybersecurity, and it operates on a different logic than most defenses. Instead of trying to block attackers, deception technology lures them. It deploys fake assets, decoy servers, fake files, simulated user accounts, false credentials scattered throughout the environment. These assets have no legitimate purpose, so any interaction with them is a strong signal that something malicious is happening. When an attacker touches a honeypot or opens a fake document, the system knows immediately. Deception technology is particularly useful for detecting attackers who have already bypassed perimeter defenses and are moving quietly through the network, because they will eventually stumble into something that does not belong to the real environment.